course, this is a deal that the Prime Minister has done in Portland to keep the aluminium smelter, I think, open there. But is this enough?
It's a great short-term deal here to keep these jobs. We must keep our manufacturing industries here in Australia. We've learned how fragile our supply chains are through COVID, and we've got to fight to keep every manufacturing job we've got. So it's a great announcement that those thousands of jobs there at Portland can be sustained. The deal's only, though, to the mid-2020s, and it's a good short-term deal, but for the long term, we'll need to build a new coal-fired power station to keep aluminium smelting in this country forever. There's no way we're going to smelt aluminium in this country from renewables, and the only reason we'll be able to do this deal today is because of the brown coal-fired power stations in the Latrobe Valley. With the Yallourn coal-fired power station there closing in 2028, we really need to start building new coal-fired power stations today to keep these jobs here through to the 2030s. We've got to focus on that. If we don't, well, we can kiss goodbye to our manufacturing jobs. They'll all go to China.
Well, that's a pretty dire prediction. But look, I got you on the program today because I'm a bit worried about your tweets. I've got to say, Matt Canavan, the TGA says the AstraZeneca vaccine is safe.
Yes, and I don't demur from that conclusion. But there are risks as well. There are risks as well, and what I'm concerned about is we need to make sure that we re-establish the principle that Australian health consumers have a right to all information about risks put in front of them, and they have a right to make their own decisions about their health.
You say want to reintroduce that principle, but have they ever been denied any information throughout the rollout of this vaccine?
Well, what has happened is anybody who raises any concerns about the risk is immediately decried, derided, and almost banished from polite society. And that is causing, we've got to remove this climate of suppression that doesn't allow Australians to have a proper evaluation of the risks. So last night, let's be very clear, last night the European Medicines Authority has released a statement. The headline of that statement does say the vaccine is safe, and as I say, I concur with that. But the headline of their statement also says there are possible connections to severe blood clotting in the brain.
It says remote possibilities, remote connections.
Yeah, hang on. So there are people in our community that have a particular vulnerability to this type of clotting. If you read through the evidence, the cases that have emerged are largely among women of the ages between 20 and 50, and those are the susceptible range for this type of condition. And what is really important, I think, is that those people are able to make a proper assessment and not have ridicule.
Well, they are, because they identify themselves to their GPs.
Laura,
they identify themselves to GPs and they get individual advice.
Okay. Well, I've been contacted by many GPs this week who are very concerned about the statements that have been issued by our regulatory authorities, which have effectively gagged them being able to give proper advice to their patients. That's coming from GPs.
What do you mean by effectively gagged?
Because, so the Australian Health Practitioner Regulatory Agency put a statement out last week to GPs in this country, which said that if they do anything, I'm paraphrasing, but this is how it's been interpreted too, if they do anything to undermine the national vaccine rollout, they could be prosecuted and have their accreditation removed. Now, I think that's outrageous, and we should not be gagging our doctors being able to have a proper risk-based discussion with their patients about their decisions on their health.
But there's no evidence of that. Isn't that just a preemptive warning? And there's no evidence that any doctors have been that. I think what the regulator is saying is that if there's anti-vaxxer doctors out there, they shouldn't be giving blanket advice.
Sorry, Laura. I've been contacted by many GPs with this concern. There was an article in the Australian Financial Review which quoted those concerns this week. I think that advice needs to be urgently clarified by the Department of Health and the regulatory authorities. We should not have a situation where doctors do not feel that they have the right to express their informed assessments of risk. The key issue here, Laura, is that there seems to be a suppression of doctors being able to make any any assessment for their patients between the vaccines.
There's no evidence of that.
So
there's no evidence of that.
Well,
if you have an underlying condition and you go to your doctor, they might give you advice that it's not right for you to get the vaccine, but there's no blanket suppression here.
So I've got an email from the TGA to a doctor where the doctor has asked, can I provide different opinions on different vaccines to my patients? And the answer is probably not.
Email.
So well, I'm not going to give obviously the details to that GP. They might lose their job, but this is a problem. We've got to. This culture.
It is a problem. It is a problem, though, isn't it? And
culture of suppression.
Can't you admit here this morning, Senator, that this is very remote? We're talking about vaccinating the vast amount of the population here, and examples that you are giving are very few and far between.
Okay, so they are remote among the entire population, but they might be a higher risk for people with certain conditions.
Sure.
And can I say?
But isn't that up to a GP?
Can I answer?
Not up to you.
Can I answer? The approach here is completely inconsistent with the approach we took last year. I supported the lockdowns, right? But why did we have the lockdowns? Because we wanted to protect, even though enormous costs.
What do you
enormous
mean?
costs to most of.
Hang on. Lockdowns to a vaccine.
Hang on. Well, if I can finish, we had enormous costs imposed on the population to save a vulnerable few. Right now, now you're effectively saying, Laura, your argument is that everybody should get vaccinated, even if a few die.
So are you saying that the government's response,
I think what we should
the rollout of a vaccine to everyone who can and wants to get in Australia is overkill? Is that the wrong strategy?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that we should allow Australians to make their own decisions, and we should not have undue pressure placed on everybody, regardless of their medical condition, to take a certain medical treatment. I just think that's a common principle that has served us well.
Senator, sorry, you just said that why should we have to get the vaccine rollout just to protect a few vulnerable people? I'm paraphrasing you again. But
you're misquoting me.
That's what a whole immunisation strategy is about.
What I said is why we shouldn't pressure all to get the vaccine, even because some might have a particular risk. That's what I'm saying.
But that's what herd immunity is about, isn't it? That's how vaccines work.
Well, yes, but herd immunity does not require everyone to get the vaccine. Everyone does not get the
85 to 90%.
Everyone does not get the polio. Yeah, okay. But this is the problem here. Your interpretation then is clearly wrong, Laura. Sorry, you're saying that your position seems to be taking the position that everyone must get the vaccine. Well, what about those people that are in these vulnerable groups? Do you think they should be forced to have it?
No, I didn't say that.
Well, I'm sorry.
It's down to a GP, and if you're looking at herd immunity, but the fact is, Senator, that by doing this, don't you admit that you're scaring people out of not taking the vaccine?
I'll put it another way here this week. I think we've missed an opportunity to have a pause while this serious condition was looked at by European authorities, because that would actually build confidence. Because they've just come back and said it's fine, that the risks are very low. And everyone's just getting back on board. So it seemed like an unnecessary pause in the rollout of millions of vaccines across Europe. Maybe if you'd let me finish, if we could build confidence, if authorities had could show the confidence that they would pause the rollout, because of safety concerns, and then restart it when those concerns were right. Because there is a lot of people out there that are sceptical of this. And the more you try to ridicule those with those positions, the more entrenched they will be. Sure. And if we don't take those concerns seriously, we will not achieve herd immunity. We've got to have a much more respectful discussion about this issue.
You better not get in a car today, Matt Canavan, because there might be a remote possibility that it crashes.
Yeah, sure, okay, all these things, but I make that choice, Laura. I make that choice. And likewise, we should allow patients in this country to make their choices about their health.
This is not a compulsory rollout of a vaccine. You don't have to take it.
The problem is the way, what I'm saying here is this climate of suppression of any other alternative views is turning it into a quasi-mandatory requirement to be a member of polite society. And to be, with all respect, Laura, your reaction this morning confirms that, right? Just because I'm highlighting the facts that have been issued by the European Medicines Authority overnight, I'm apparently a terrible and bad person.
No, I'm not saying that. But do you still think it should be paused here in Australia after the authority in Europe went back and re-looked at it?
It doesn't. No, I don't think so now. But I think we've missed an opportunity there to have the confidence to say, look, because a few days pause here wouldn't have made any difference to our rollout in the scheme of things. But it would have helped build confidence, I think, that authorities are taking concerns seriously and they're not going to be averse to making major decisions based on what were serious concerns.
Matt Canavan, you always show up and we thank you for it. And sorry I interrupted you so much. If the other was being reversed, it might have been a bit of a Twitter spawn.
You're passionate about it, that's okay.
Matt Canavan, thanks so much.